The 2020 NBA draft is just under a week away, and the hype for it is building every moment we get closer to it. Reports are swirling left, right and center about who teams may potentially draft and how the order of the draft may shake up on the night, as many teams are looking to move up and down. In today's video, I'm going to be looking at 4 potential draft day scenarios that may happen this year, which could make some big changes in the NBA going forward. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe for more NBA content like this. I'm trying to hit 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that all being said, let's get right into this top 4. Number 4. The Boston Celtics move into the top 10. One of the best drafting teams in the last decade has to be the Boston Celtics. They've made some excellent draft day moves, such as moving down to select Tatum in 2017, and they look to be on the prowl again this year, with reports claiming they want to move back into the top 10. With the number 14 and number 26 picks in hand, they do have a good chance of making a deal with another side for a top 10 pick. So, what could a potential trade look like between Boston and a lottery side, and who would the Celtics then select? The Celtics trade both their first round picks, 14 and 26, to the Atlanta Hawks for pick 6, as well as Gordon Hayward. For Boston, moving up to this 6th pick is great. They'll look to target either a big man, shooter, or potentially even a wing player, according to reports, so I have a few options in mind for them. If Onyeka Okongwu falls low enough, Boston may be able to snag him at 6, which would be huge in my opinion. It is unlikely that does happen, but that'd be probably the perfect scenario here for them. According to rumors, Boston may target Patrick Williams as well, a 6'7" forward out of Florida State, who would be a solid fit in Boston and could learn quite a lot behind a guy like Tice, and would also get a fair amount of minutes with Hayward now out of the picture. However, aside from Okongwu, the guy I like the most for Boston and would be an elite selection for them, in my opinion, is Aaron Naismith. Naismith is probably the best shooter in the draft, knocking down over 55% of his 8 3-point attempts per game last season with Vanderbilt. He's also a very good defender and has potential to be elite at the NBA level with his athleticism and length, so this makes him even more exciting for Boston. Overall, moving into the top 6 just secures Boston a great player, where they may miss out on all of these guys at 14. This move is about security and locking in the best player available for them and their current situation. For the Hawks, the biggest win for them in this deal is securing Gordon Hayward. Though Hayward's contract is very expensive, it only has 1 year left on it, and it's very unlikely he declines his player option this summer, because he's definitely not getting that payday again. Hayward can provide the veteran leadership this young Hawks team needs, and would be a good 2nd or 3rd option behind Trae Young. I think with his talents, the Hawks can make a real push for the playoffs in 2021. And if Trae Young can at least become respectable defensively, not a complete liability, I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to lock up a top 8 spot. Down the latter half of the first round is when defensive studs often get taken, such as Thibault a couple years ago, so if the Hawks want to improve this area of their squad in the draft, they can still do so, perhaps by selecting a guy like Josh Green down at 26. I don't think a top 6 pick for them will get them to improve that much, and they are pretty clearly trying to get into win now mode, so an addition of a quality vet like Hayward is significant in helping them potentially take that next step. Number 3. The Golden State Warriors trade the number 2 pick for Lamarcus Aldridge and pick 11. We'll hop straight into this one. Reports are starting to heat up as of late surrounding a potential deal involving Aldridge going to Golden State and San Antonio getting back the 2nd pick. So why would each team decide to do this deal? And what are the benefits of it for them? Well, the Warriors are obviously back in win now mode. With Curry and Clay coming back fully healthy, they'll be looking to compete for a championship again, and getting a young stud at the top of the draft may not be in their best interest for their current situation. The number 2 pick is always going to hold some value, so they'll be able to get someone of quality in return, and I think Lamarcus Aldridge plus the 11th pick is definitely suitable. To be completely honest, this would be a hard decision to make if I'm the Warriors. Sure, Aldridge is an all-star caliber player, but there are also advantages of keeping the number 2 pick that they will have to weigh up. Overall though, if this trade does go through, I wouldn't say it's a mistake for Golden State, and they probably improve in a short-term view, which is important with a contending team. Aldridge should fit well, he's a decent floor spacer, and with Curry's gravity, he could get a lot of good opportunities around the ring and in his feared mid-range area. If the Warriors are really that worried about missing on a young prospect, getting that 11th pick back too is a safety net to ensure they do get someone solid out of this draft, which is fantastic for them considering their weak depth. A starting 5 of Curry, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond and Aldridge is a serious contender, and arguably a top 3 favourite to win it all. So I think this is a great offer for Golden State come draft day. For the Spurs, they're beginning a rebuild they've been able to hold off for decades. They just missed the playoffs for the first time in about 20 years, and it's clear their star tandem involving DeMar DeRozan and Lamarcus Aldridge won't work out. With DeRozan set to test free agency waters and reports all season claiming he was unhappy in San Antonio. This is why landing this 2nd pick is huge for them, as they're guaranteeing themselves a top prospect of this year's draft to restart their franchise with. San Antonio will likely select a guard or wing, so depending on who Minnesota get, they could potentially select a guy like Lamelo Ball or Anthony Edwards, or even a guy like Denny Avdija, all fantastic selections. Overall for the Spurs here, this is a good trade for them as they're trying to get an elite young talent to restart this rebuild, so moving up is pretty much essential. By dumping Aldridge, who they want to move anyway, they open up a lot of time for their young players to develop and shed a lot of salary cap space too, which can allow them to target some building blocks in free agency to help with their rebuild. For both teams, this trade makes a lot of sense overall. The Warriors may not be 100% on whether this is the right move yet, but Aldridge does only have 1 year left on his contract, so if things don't work out as planned, they can let him walk in the 2021 free agency. That then frees up room for one of the many superstars in that free agency class that the Warriors will look to target, such as Giannis. So overall here for Golden State, this is a low risk, high reward move that benefits them in the short term, as they look to win now. The Spurs get an elite pick for this year's draft to help them rebuild after a mediocre season, where they can select a potential franchise player, and they also get rid of Aldridge, who was going to get traded anyway. Again, solid moves for both situations. There may be better offers out there for both sides, but this is still a great one nonetheless in my eyes. Number 2. Minnesota trade the number 1 pick. According to reports, the Timberwolves are open to trading their number 1 pick for a win-now player, so there's a lot of mock trades spreading. Personally, I find it unlikely they move it, but there is still a real possibility they do, and I think a trade that could occur is between the Phoenix Suns and Minnesota regarding Devin Booker. After the Suns' huge bubble success, this probably only happens if Booker requests a trade, but there is still a possibility that could happen. This is more of a fun one to think about, but let's get into this trade between Phoenix and Minnesota. The Minnesota Timberwolves get Devin Booker, and the Phoenix Suns get back the Minnesota Timberwolves number 1 pick, James Johnson, Jarrett Culver, Malik Beasley, and Josh Okogie. For the Wolves, this obviously makes sense. Back in November 2019, in a Slam magazine interview, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, and Devin Booker talked about the dream they share of wanting to play together. At the trade deadline, the Minnesota Timberwolves started to make that a reality, completing one part of the process by trading for D'Angelo Russell. Now it seems like Devin Booker could be next on their list. The big three of Towns, D'Lo and Booker would be absolutely insane and could propel the Wolves into the playoff picture finally after all the disappointing years they've had recently. Though they'd lose a lot of depth from this trade, I'd expect role players to be heavily attracted to Minnesota due to the big three, which would allow Minnesota to build it back up and make them a legitimate contender as the three stars enter their prime. For the Suns, the 2020 first rounder is huge, as they now have 2 top 10 picks. Malik Beasley has also been amazing since joining Minnesota, so if Phoenix give him a big enough role, I think he could have a bigger impact for them than it seems. Jarrett Culver is young and has potential. Okogie is starting to become a solid role player and defensive beast, and James Johnson can be a great veteran and mentor for the younger guys. Out of all the trades here, this one excites me the most, as whilst it is not necessarily the most realistic one, it is the most fun one to think about. It is still semi-realistic to me, and I think both teams can largely benefit from it, particularly Minnesota. However, I do still think it is unlikely unless Devin Booker requests a trade out of nowhere. But again, it's still fun to think about. Number 1. Jrue Holiday is traded to the Golden State Warriors. Another one involving Golden State's number 2 pick. Again, as the Warriors are in win now mode, a high draft pick probably isn't much use to them, so they're looking to continue to upgrade their roster. A player linked to them lately is Jrue Holiday, a player who has also been in continuous rumors for the last few seasons. So, what would a trade look like between Golden State and New Orleans in regards to Holiday and their second pick? The Warriors receive Jrue Holiday, whilst the Pelicans get back Andrew Wiggins and the number 2 overall pick. For the Warriors, Jrue Holiday's defensive ability would make Golden State's backcourt the best in the league quite easily, as though Holiday can provide solid to great offense and playmaking, that wouldn't be his main priority, instead focusing on slowing down other star guards. With Klay Thompson as well, that is a scary sight to think about. The Warriors squad would be fully enhanced in my opinion with Jrue, and probably puts them out in front or close to the front for favourites next season. For the Pelicans, they are setting themselves up really nicely for the future here. If Brandon Ingram re-signs, they'll have 2 all-star caliber starters in him and Zion Williamson, and if they can get someone like Edwards or Okongwu with the second pick, they have the potential to create a future dominant big three. Andrew Wiggins is also a great addition. He fits the timeline of this team well and should get a solid role on this New Orleans team. Regardless of Wiggins' failure to become a superstar like he was projected, he's still a very good player, averaging 21 points a night last season, so he adds to the already loaded depth of New Orleans. Overall, I think this trade benefits both teams enough to make it somewhat realistic and doable. And if I'm the Golden State Warriors in particular here, I'd take a serious look at this offer, as it could make them NBA champions yet again in 2021. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? Do you see any of these trades happening on November 18? And do you have any of your own? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.